Congratulations on the purchase of your new Slimline roof light by Roofmaker, the UK's leading designers and manufacturers of quality roof lights and doors. Our roof lights have been designed with speed and ease of construction in mind, so that you don't need to be a professional installer to build and fit your roof light. This video will take you through an easy-to-follow step-by-step process to ensure you build and install your roof light in the correct way. But if you need advice or help, our technical team is always on hand. Part 1 of this video will cover a standard 4-pane lantern configuration. Unless you're fitting a triple glazed lantern, this will cover sizes up to 3 meters by 1.5 meters. Or if your unit consists of 4 panes of glass, you'll only need to watch Part 1 of the installation guide. Part 2 will cover the addition of the split bar. This is for larger units where the 2 longer panes of glass need to be done in 2 or more sections. Part 3 will cover the installation of an opening vent. The installation method is the same whether you're using a manually or electronically operated vent. We recommend that if installing a vent into your lantern, you watch all 3 parts of this video guide. Before you start to put your roof light together, unpack and check all parts against the inventory. Although these are always quality checked before they leave our factory, it's a way for you to identify and familiarize yourself with all the parts. Number and type of parts will vary dependent on the size of your unit and whether a vent is included. This is all outlined in the inventory list that will be attached to the box containing your roof light components when delivered. The actual size of the aperture should reflect the size of the roof light you've ordered. So in this case, the aperture measures exactly 2 meters by 1 meter for a unit measuring 2 meters by 1 meter. This should measure 70 mm in width to match the width of the built-in upstand you're going to assemble. We recommend a minimum height at 25 mm, but this can be increased if required. In many cases, you will have added your roof membrane on top of your ply deck. Please ensure that if you are doing this, you leave enough excess material around your timber curb and roof light upstand. This is to weatherproof your roof light when fitted. This can be folded back out of the way until your roof lantern is installed. We do, however, recommend as best practice that you apply membrane to your roof after the installation of the lantern to avoid damaging or piercing it while you carry out the installation. You are now ready to begin the construction of your new roof light. For most sizes, the built-in insulated upstand will come ready assembled. But if your roof light is larger than 3 meters by 1.5 meters, you will need to assemble the frame yourself. Take 2 of the corner cleats and insert them into the slots in the frame as shown. Then take the other ends of the cleats and insert them into the slots of the matching piece of the frame. Before you push the 2 pieces of frame together, make sure that the nut and bolt are put into the pre-cut hole as shown. Next, fasten the frame section together securely using the screws provided through the top of the upstand. Repeat for all the corners until the frame is securely fastened together. When you've fixed all 4 corners through the top, turn the upstand over and repeat the process for each corner, screwing the unit together through the pre-formed holes located in the underside of the unit. The upstand is now ready to be fixed to your timber curb. Apply a thick bead of silicone all the way round the timber curb, about 20 mm from the internal edge. Only use a professional quality silicone adhesive sealant such as Dow Corning 791. Then carefully place the assembled upstand onto the curb, ensuring it sits flush with the inner and outer edge of the curb. You now need to secure the upstand to the timber curb, and you do this by inserting screws into the purpose-made groove as shown, about 100 mm from each corner. You will need to pre-drill your holes into the aluminium frame using a standard metal drill bit. We recommend 12 screws in total, 2 at each corner, with a further screw in the middle of each side. These screws are not provided, but we suggest standard timber screws at a minimum length of 50 mm. You're now ready to attach the 4 provided hip bars to the upstand. Bring the hip into position over the upstand and slide the head of the bolt into the slot of the hip. Now pull the hip body forward whilst tightening the bolt. This will ensure the internal nut stays in place while tightening. Repeat for each corner. When tightening, the hip body must not touch the curb. The slots in the hip bars should be cut to prevent this happening. You are now ready to introduce your ridge bar. The ridge bar has blocks located at either end which already house the bolts that will connect to your hip bars. Slide the slotted end of the hip bars over the screws in the ridge end block. Position the hip bars so they connect with each other in line with the centre of the ridge bar as shown. Then repeat for the other end. Now remove the protective film from each side of the ridge and hip profiles. When you've removed these, fit the packers at each corner of the curb and apply a small spot of silicone either side of the packer, which will stop them from sliding from side to side. The next stage is to insert the glass sections. Before you introduce your glass panels to the unit, peel back the first 5 cm of the green glazing tape that's pre-applied to your ridge and hips. Do this at both ends of the hips and ridge bar as shown. Ensure the peeled off film will be accessible from the inside of the roof lantern when the glass is positioned. Not peeling off the entire protective cover will ensure your glass can be moved and repositioned until you're happy with the glass positioning on all 4 sides of the lantern. The frame is designed so these will fit easily and neatly into place, but care needs to be taken as these are the heaviest component parts of your roof light. Bring in one of the panels and sit it on the inside groove of the packers, and then gently lower it into the frame. Repeat this for all 4 panels. When you're happy that the glass is positioned correctly, apply a generous amount of silicone into the groove at the top and bottom of each of the hip profiles, measuring about 100 ml from each corner. Next, run silicone between all the glass panels and frames, on either side of the hip and ridge bars. Again, only 100 ml of silicone is required, measured from each corner. Gently tap the hip carriers and top caps onto the hip bars by hand, as shown. We advise using a rubber mallet so you don't damage the powder-coated top cap. Slide the hip carriers up the hip bar as shown, so the angled cutouts line up perfectly and are positioned dead centre to the ridge bar. Stagger the hip carrier so 100 ml is sticking out at the top, as you cannot slide the hip caps into position until the ridge carrier and top cap is fitted. Repeat at the other end of the lantern. Prepare your ridge carrier by cutting off the corners with a hacksaw. Set in from the ends of your ridge carrier by approximately 20 ml, as the diagram shows. The runners that continue along the length of the ridge carrier may be slightly distorted at the ends when doing this, which will affect the ease of sliding your ridge top cap into place at the next step. If this is the case, we advise you gently shave the damaged ends off with a Stanley knife. Run silicone between the glass and ridge bar on both sides in preparation of bringing in your ridge carrier. This needs to run the entire length of the ridge bar, as shown. When prepared, bring in your ridge carrier, gently tapping it into place by hand or with your rubber mallet, and ensure it's centered perfectly by checking both ends. Then slide your ridge top cap in from one end, as shown, again ensuring that it's perfectly centered by checking both ends. You can now slide the hip top caps into position so they meet equally at the top in the center, as you did with the hip carriers. You must ensure that the hips sit underneath the ridge top cap, as shown. Repeat on the other side of the lantern. If at the bottom of the hip bars there is plastic hip carrier protruding, use a hacksaw to carefully remove any excess from the bottom, being careful not to damage the aluminium hip caps. Repeat at each corner if necessary. Next, you're ready to fix the 4 provided hip caps to the ends of your hip bars. Using a screw gun set to a low gear, attach the end caps as shown, being careful not to over-tighten them. Repeat at all 4 corners of the lantern. It's now time to fit the two ridge end caps. Fill the space between the end of the ridge cover and the hip caps generously with silicone as shown, and apply the two end caps. Your Slimline roof light assembly is now nearly complete. All that remains is to seal the underside of the bottom edge of the glass with silicone. From inside of the lantern, gently peel the glazing tape covering away from the hips and ridge bars, from where you left excess running to the inside. The assembly of your Slimline lantern is now complete, and you're now ready to flash the upstand with your chosen roof membrane. Ensure your membrane is tucked right under the dedicated drip lip that sits just under the glass. This is important as it acts as the final weathering stage to avoid water ingress in this area. Your roof light assembly is now finished. Correctly installed, your Slimline roof light will give you years of trouble-free pleasure, bringing more light into your home and transforming your living or working space. To give you additional peace of mind, Roofmaker offers a 20-year guarantee on all our sealed glazing units across our entire product range.